We're going to learn to set up for a barbell squat with a ground up approach. I always tend to squat in my sock feet, but these cues will totally work for when you're in your shoes as well. Starting with the feet, what we're going to want to do is we're going to try to imagine that the ball of the foot, the outside base of our fifth toe, and the heel are creating a triangle on the ground. So we should feel all three points of contact. Then we're going to push those into the ground, and we're going to imagine that there's a piece of paper underneath the balls of both of our feet, and we're tearing that paper in half. So what it looks like, my 3 points of contact, and I'm engaged, and I'm ripping it out to the side. I can feel my hips are now tight. So you can see the arches are starting to activate here. They're not flat. They're nice and activated, pulling that paper out to the side. However, I'm not sliding out to the side. I just have the contact in there, and then I'm tearing it. This is going to engage our hip muscles. Now, the next thing we have is our knee position. I find that a more sports-specific position is knees just shoulder width apart. But if we're going for like a maximal squat, you can have your knees a little bit wider and your toes a little bit more pointed outwards. This would be for a really competitive power lift in the squat. Having a little bit more narrow can be a little bit more sports specific if you really care. The most important thing is finding your preference. So whether you can hit depth with your legs a little bit closer together or a little bit more out-toed doesn't really matter. The key thing here is that you want to keep your knees pointed towards your toes, never having your knees collapse inwards. Now that we got the lower foundation, we're going to set up the bar. There are two types of bar positions. I'm going to demonstrate a high bar position, then a low bar position second. Make sure that the bar is set up below our shoulder height. Then going to grab the bar so that your arms make a W. You don't want them too narrow. You don't need them too wide. You just want a nice W. Now, where you're resting the bar is actually just on top of this bony spine of your scapula or the spine of your shoulder blade here. You're resting it above in that groove of the shoulder blade. That's going to be just below the upper traps here. So you grab your bar, and I'm not on my neck. I'm not high on my neck. I'm just below the upper traps, right on that groove. And then I'm going to have a little bit wider to create that W. When I hold the bar, I'm squeezing my elbows down into my pockets to engage my lats. So this is my high bar rack position. So now that I have the bar and I'm standing here, I'm pulling my elbows down into my back pockets to engage my lats. I have my feet with my 3 points of contact on the ground. I'm ripping the paper so my glutes are engaged. I have a slight forward hinge and my knees are pointing towards my toes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up my abs, breathe in, hold that pressure, come down to my squat, and then I'm pushing out, breathing out on the way up. Come down to parallel, breathe out. Now what you might notice for me is my bar path goes slightly forward and back when I'm in a high bar position. Because of that, I like to do a low bar squat to help with my depth and my bar path. So for the low bar squat, we're putting the bar below the spine of the scapula. It does require more shoulder stability to hold it lower, and you actually have to start with the bar one notch lower than you used to because you're going to be in a bit of a hinged position. So if you have shoulder problems, it's not going to be a good position for you. But people with long femurs like myself, it can help hit depth better. For the low bar position, this is a little bit lower than I'd like, but you want to have it one notch lower than your high bar position. Now, when you're setting it up through here, you have the spine of the scapula right beneath the bar, and I'm putting the bar beneath that. You do need to hinge forward. So I'm leaning forward slightly the entire time. I'm never standing straight up because the bar is just going to fall down. So you are in part of a hinge the entire time. Again, the W position, and I'm squeezing my elbows together to engage my lats. The low bar position here, lats are engaged by pulling my elbows together. I'm not standing up, I'm slightly hinged forward. I have my 3 points of contact on the ground, ripping that paper, glutes are engaged, come down, push up. Core is braced, breathe in, down, push up. And I'm staying hinged the entire time. I'm never standing up with the bar coming down. What you'll be able to notice for me in the low bar position is that my bar path is a lot more vertical than when I'm in the high bar position. The most common mistakes I see with people's knees is as they come down, they come in and the outside of their feet flare upwards here. If that is the case, widen your stance, rotate your toes outwards, and that'll help preventing your feet from coming up. The second most common mistake I see is when people are squatting down, they try to stay too far rigid and come up onto their toes. Allow your body to fall forward naturally. If the high bar position feels like a lot of strain and you're not keeping that good bar path, then switching to the low bar position might be the better option.